The video that you are going to see next is from a course that I just released called Ableton Made Easy for Church Musicians. Now, this course is about 2.5 hours long. I show you step by step how to use Ableton in church. I'm going to be showing you how to set up your own loop set, how to program a live show, how to run multi-tracks. Everything that you need to know to use Ableton Live in church, I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to leave the link to the course below in the description, but stick around and enjoy the video that you're about to see from the course. I want to present you guys with a scenario that can and will happen if you are a musician long enough. So let's say you get hired to do a worship night. Let's say Mike calls you, right? Mike says, hey, tomorrow can you come play keys or play the drums at my worship night? The only issue is I need you to run loops and I need you to load up these loops in Ableton and run everything smoothly. Can you do that? So if you don't know how to do that, this is going to be the video for you. I'm going to show you how you can build out your own set list and load in these loops that are already made for the worship night. So let's get to it. So based on the previous lessons, I want to ask you this: which view are we going to use? Are we going to use arrangement view or are we going to use session view? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about that. So if you said session view, you are correct. We are going to use session view to run these loops for the worship night. Can you use arrangement view to do this? Yes, but it is my recommendation that you use session view in situations like this. So Mike tells you that the agenda for the worship night is 5 songs. He already has the 5 loops made. You just have to load them into Ableton. So that's going to be very simple. So let me show you guys how to do that. So the first thing I want to start off by doing is deleting the tracks that we don't need. So we only need 1 audio track for this. I am going to delete the 2 MIDI tracks and the extra audio track that we have. So I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to press MIDI track 1, MIDI track 2, and audio track 3, and then I'm going to press delete. Right now, I'm going to drag this over. You'll see that this little bracket appears just to give us a little bit more real estate. Then I'm going to come down here. I want to remove this reverb and delay column right here because we're not going to use that. And I'm going to press R over here on the right hand side. So that's going to make that disappear. Now I'm going to come over here to master and we're going to drag this master track all the way over. And when we do that, you'll see that the BPM and the time signature appears. Now, if you are using Ableton Live 10, the process is going to be a little bit different on how to get the BPM and the time signature to register. And it's going to be a little bit different for Ableton 12 as well. I'll walk you through that and tell you about that if you stick around until the end. So now also what I want to do is I want to come over here to audio 1 and we want to name this column right here loops. So we're going to name this loops. Cool. And if we want to change the color, we can right click this and let's make it red or orange. The next step that we are going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find wherever the loops are at. So I recommend that you add the folder with all of the 5 loops, or you can be like me. You can add a folder with all of your loops in there so that you have access to that folder. Once you add the folder to this left-hand side over here, the folder is going to stay here forever. Even when you close out Ableton and reopen it, you always are going to have access to the folders on this left-hand side. So now it's time to drag in the loops that we are going to do for the worship night. All right, so let's say the first song for the worship night is Glorious Day. So we have the Glorious Day loop right here. All right, cool. And we see that the BPM is 118 and the time signature is 4/4. So I'm going to drag Glorious Day over, right? Let's do that. All right, cool. We see that Ableton has detected at the top that the BPM is 118. To my left, I see that this has changed to 118 as well. The launch tempo and the time signature is 4/4 as well. So let's analyze this a little bit further, right? So I'm going to double click on this audio track, the loop. When I analyze the loop, I see that Ableton has already picked up that the BPM is 118 It has already turned on the loop as well. So let's just launch this loop and see what it sounds like, right? So it's looping, everything sounds good. It's doing what it needs to do, right? So essentially we're done with scene one, but we need to add some more things to make this complete. So what I want to do is I want to change the launch tempo and lock that in at 118. So we're going to double click the launch tempo and I'm going to type in 118. So we're going to lock that in. We're locked in at 118 and I'm going to double click this time signature and make sure we lock it in at 4/4. I'm going to change the color of scene one and I want scene one to be red. So I'm going to right click scene one and I'm going to make it red. Now I'm going to right click it again and I'm going to name this Glorious Day. And I like to do all caps. Glorious. And then I'll often put the key beside it as well. Let's say that key is E. I don't think it's in E, but we'll say it's in E so you get the point. So we got loop one ready to go for the worship night. If we play it. Now, if you are using Ableton Live 10, you will not have access to the launch tempo BPM like you see it right here or this time signature. So what you will have to do is manually enter in the BPM by saying 118 BPM and putting the time signature 4/4 like that. If you are using the latest version of Ableton, you will have to come up here to view and there will be an option to show BPM and to show time signature. And I got this information off of Ableton's website, so you can go check that out as well. The next song is going to be, let's say the next song is Cry Out, Naomi Rain, right? So what we are going to do, we're going to select that loop and we're going to drag it over, right? And what you see happening right now is the launch tempo is set to 118. So when we launch this track, it's going to launch at 118, but we see that the BPM is 155, right? So check this out. Check what's going to happen when we launch this track if we don't change it. It sounds real weird because the launch tempo is set at 118, but what we need to do is change the launch tempo. So we're going to double click the launch tempo and we're going to click 155. And then we're going to set the time signature as well. Time signature 4/4. We locked in. Double click this loop and make sure Ableton has detected that the BPM is 155. And we see that Ableton has detected that the BPM is 155 and it has automatically turned on the loop as well. In some cases, what you have to do is turn off warp and turn on warp again. I'm going to get to a loop where we have to do that as well, I promise you. So please stick around and keep on watching this lesson through. So this is song 2. I want to right click this and we're going to change this to orange. And we're going to make this orange as well. And I'm going to right click this and I'm going to rename it Cry Out. And I always like to put the key signature beside it because that just helps me out. It's kind of hard to remember the key of all of these songs. Next song is Firm Foundation. This is going to get interesting. Watch. So Firm Foundation, the BPM is 75 and the time signature is 6/8, which is different from 4/4. But Ableton always has a hard time detecting songs like this where the time signature is like either 3/4 or 6/8 and the BPM is, yeah, let's check it out. So let's drag it over. So we see that Ableton is saying that the BPM of Firm Foundation is actually 100. Even though we know that the BPM is 75, right? So what we want to do is we want to unwarp it and then warp it again, right? It's still saying that the BPM is 100, but we know that's not right. So if I play it, check this out. We see that it's launching at 118. Since we know that the BPM is 75, church musician, and you have not yet learned Ableton, you are doing yourself a huge disservice, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. Reason number 1, Ableton is by far the best software to run loops and multi-tracks live in church. Without a doubt, Ableton wins every single time. Once you learn Ableton, it increases your value as a musician, and you now have an extra skill to help out your local church and enhance the music ministry. Here's the simple truth. You could spend 12+ hours on YouTube learning all of the information that I'm going to share with you, but no one is going to break it down or teach it the way that I'm going to teach it to you. Ableton is incredibly easy and definitely will enhance your workflow when running multi-tracks and loops in church. I'm going to share with you everything that I know about Ableton in under 2.5 hours. And I'm also going to include a bonus as well. I'm going to include some stems and some loops so you can practice within Ableton the things that we go over. This definitely is going to be the best course on the internet showing you how to work Ableton for church musicians. If you would like more information, please click the link below.